Hey everybody, we're going to be looking at formants today. This is something that if you're doing any kind of pitch changing that you should be aware of what it is and how it works. So we're going to be looking at a feature in Logic which I don't think I fully understood was there. And so that's always a cue to me that I need to share this in a video format. But before we get started, I want to make sure you know that this is a sponsored video. Ditto Music is making sure you get your weekly Logic content. It's a company which is for selling your music. It gets all of your music onto the online services. It's a service which allows you unlimited releases to hundreds of different platforms. It also lets you keep 100% of the royalties. So we're going to be sponsored by this group for a couple videos, and so I'll tell you a little bit more about them in the next one as well. I don't always have a viewpoint on these services, but any company that wants to make it so you get a little bit more Logic content is a company that I'm okay with. So let's dive right into the Formant thing. And specifically, I want to show this in the context of doubling up a vocal track an octave higher without having to re-record it. And this, it's just so good how it works. It's not perfect. There are definitely some situations where you're going to have some artifacts. But I think that this is something that has a lot of potential. And so what we're going to do is just showcase that a little bit for you. Okay, so first I have that track selected. I think I just want a part of this coming down. So I'm going to do new track with duplicate settings. And then I'm going to option click this one region down. And so this will be the one that we're taking up an octave. I don't think we have any, no automation, good. So I'm going to turn it down just a little bit because I want to blend it in. And amidst all of my other plugins, I'm going to do a pitch shifter and just pull this up an octave and make sure it's 100% mix. So that way we're just hearing the pitch shifted option there. So let's solo this out.
That's when we begin to see the truth.
So artifacty and very, chipmunky. And you could go into flex pitch and change all of that down or work with it, but we're going to use formants at the track level. And when we do that, we're going to come over here right in our inspector, as you can see. You can see that there's 4 different things here. We have flex mode, which is flex pitch for the track. We have Formant track, which at first I was really confused on what that does because the manual says very insightful things about this. It says, determines the interval at which formants are tracked along the signal. And if that doesn't mean nothing to you, then I don't know what would. It really is a little bit more gibberish. But after a little experimenting, what happens is when you're using flex pitch on a track and things are going down in different places or being altered a little bit with flex pitch, the formants don't just get pulled with it. Sometimes it ramps into those, is what I could tell. So for instance, I'm going to turn formant tracking up to 2.0, which is the highest it can go. And I guess you might say slowest it goes.
That's when we begin to see the truth.
I don't hear as much on that one. We may have to look at that with the original track. Let's do that real quick just so you can hear that. Formant tracking.
That's when we begin to see the truth.
You can hear a little bit of warbling there because of the different formant tracking. But we're not doing as much with flex pitch on those. I think the more you engage with it, the more it's going to do. And then this becomes the key to this, the formant shift, which we can now do plus or minus 24. Semitones, I'm thinking, is what this is referring to, just because when I go up an octave and then I pull this back down by 12, it's going to offset that a little bit. So once again, let me just go back to 0 on this and play that.
That's when we
And I'm going to pull this down, not that one, I'm going to pull this one down to -12.
That's when we begin to see the truth.
Now, there's still some artifacts, and I'm not surprised because this particular vocal was sung with a little bit of stuff in there in the first place. But let's put these together.
That's when we begin to see the truth. That's when we begin to see the truth. That's when we begin to see the truth. That's when we begin to see.
So you end up with a vocal that sounds a lot more like an actual vocal that's not quite so chipmunky. And that's sometimes what we want. The last thing we can do is set this to process formants always or keep unvoiced formants, which means some things like, the S's, sibilants, other unvoiced parts of the words, things like that, which don't have actual pitch to them, don't get actually processed this way.
That's when we begin to see the truth. That's when we begin to see the truth. That's when we begin.
In this case, I like the process always. It sounds just a little bit less abrasive. So this is kind of cool. It means that if we're coming through and working on, some vocal, it's a really popular thing to do right now is to, change the formants of something. It's real easy now to do the entire track just by pulling this down.
How to do for you, so I walked away. But I knew it was more than I knew. How to do for you, so I walked away.
And that's a super easy way to get the formant shift across the entire thing on a track without having to, put a plug-in in or anything. And so I think that's pretty cool. Let's try doing this down a little bit, but then turn on the formant tracking to see if we get any results.
But I knew it was more than I knew. How to do for you, so I walked away.
So that's actually, I can hear the formants shifting over time, and that's definitely, it's kind of like an attack or release on a compressor, I think. Similar in concept, not exactly, but it's kind of cool. So this is a great way to change your overall formants. Now, for those of you who don't know exactly what formants are, you can think of this akin to the way that your body's designed. So we have our fundamental frequency of our voice, which is the your vocal cords flapping. That sets the pitch of what you're singing. But then the timbre, the characteristic of your voice, is a lot of that's determined by the cavities in your face, your throat cavity, your mouth cavity, your nasal cavity. And so when we do pitch shifting and we take that up, normally when you sing higher, all of those cavities in your face don't change. They all stay at a fixed place, or they change a little bit if your tongue goes up, or if you're doing certain diphthongs with your words. And so normally those would all stay in a relatively fixed way while your pitch goes up and down. But when we do pitch shifting up an octave, it very unnaturally makes the whole thing go higher. All of those formants get pulled up. And so we pull down those frequencies that are above the fundamental, while the fundamental is pitch shift up. And so as we adjust those, we bring them back into alignment, and you get back to a normal sounding voice with some artifacts because you're pushing something up, an octave, or, which is unnatural, but up an octave, down an octave with the formants, and you get a more natural sounding voice, but it's not like a perfect clone. So it works really well with harmonies. It works really well if it's really well recorded, better in that case, but it's never going to be perfect. but sometimes we can't actually sing up an octave, and so it may be exactly what we need. Anyway, just want to share this whole thing over in our track inspector. This is a really cool way to be able to mess with your formants without having to go into the actual flex pitch editor. That's hard to say. Anyway, hope you're having a good week. More videos coming soon.